could see it. Okay. So you should have a sheet of line paper. And we're going to do Mussolini and Italy should be on the top of your paper today.
Miss Ballard.
Uh-huh.
I just got a text from Ben and he said that an asteroid's gonna pass Earth in 12 hours.
Oh.
Well, he goes, we'll see if 2020 ends early.
So there you go. All right. So Mussolini and Italy. All right. So we're going to review pretty quickly here. I'm going to go back so I can see you. Okay. Stop sharing for a second. Okay. How does Hitler come to power? So you might want to look back if you have your notes. Kit's hand is raised. Kit, what's one thing he does that lets him come to power?
Well, he kind of he shows he blames everything on the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
So he's I don't know.
That's great. Okay, so you say he has a scapegoat. So he blames everything
Miss
on
Ballard,
the
I
Jews.
can't hear you.
Well, I can hear you, Audrey. Everybody else can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
Audrey, your sound must be down. Hang on. Audrey, your sound.
Miss Ballard, I can't hear you.
Audrey, can you hear me?
Okay, Lily.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. He also was since Germany was so poor and hopeless, they really had no choice but to listen to him. So.
Okay, so that's exactly right. So Germany is really poor and very hopeless. It's not a very good situation right then. Good. What else? Audrey, I can't help you, honey.
Turn up your sound.
This is the first time this has happened.
Okay. Okay. So what else? So we said it was very hopeless. There's not a lot of money. And we said he finds the Jews and uses them as scapegoats. Winston, something else.
He made a lot of these propaganda.
My sound was all the way down. That's why I couldn't hear anybody.
Okay. Yes, he makes all the propaganda posters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he uses the propaganda, and people see these posters over and over to remind them of how great Hitler is or how great he says he is. Something else. The cookie.
Didn't he promise people stuff, or was that a different person?
He promised people tons of stuff. Remember, he said,
Yeah,
"I'm
he
going to give you bread
or something."
Yeah, bread, job. Yeah. You're going to have work, and Germany's going to be great again. Mm-hmm. Okay. So these are all some of the things that helped Hitler rise to power. So the first thing we're actually going to write about, let me present my screen again. Let's see. Okay. Okay, can you guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So Hitler comes to power. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to write this down. Even though it's not Mussolini, Hitler is really important when we look at in conjunction with Mussolini. So
on the left,
you're going to rewrite it. This is more concise. So on the left, you're going to write Hitler's rise to power, and then these 6 things are what really helps him get to power. So this is just review from last week.
Miss Valerie, should we write this on our notes from last week?
Today's notes. So the top should be Mussolini and Italy, Audrey. Okay. So he has a weak government at the beginning in Germany. We talked about the Weimar Republic and how there's all these riots and how it's really bad. The weak government cannot control the riots. People are getting shot in the street. People are getting there's mobs that are beating people up. So Germany's not a good place. We talked about also a lot of people are afraid of communism. They're afraid that because there's so much unrest that the Communist Party will take power and all of their possessions will go over to the state. So they're afraid oh, my house will now be owned by the government, and the government's going to tell me what job I have to do, and all of my belongings I have to share. So that's a big problem.
So I have two questions. The first one is, what's a scapegoat?
Okay, so a scapegoat is actually the idea that the word comes from the idea that you would pass your sins to an animal.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. And
In
my
the Bible.
other,
So a
and my-
scapegoat is somebody you can blame.
okay. And
So-
my other question was, wasn't there like also the black shirts and something? It was
Yeah.
like history.
We're going to talk about the black shirts today.
Did they
You're
like copy
on-
off of
yeah,
that?
You're on topic. What?
Did they like copy off of that?
Yes.
Miss
So
Oh, okay.
Did Hitler copy Mussolini? a lot?
yes, you guys
It's
are
also the
perfect.
straight arm thing.
Yeah. Yeah, he copies Mussolini. So we actually are going to go back in history today to see who Hitler learned it all from. So Hitler uses the Jews as a scapegoat. He himself is a very strong leader, and he has a private army of brown shirts. Okay, so did everybody get this down?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll wait. So like you guys are already figuring out, which makes me really excited. Yeah, Hitler is a copycat. He just steals everything pretty much from Mussolini. And Mussolini is actually in power almost 10 years before Hitler comes to power.
Wow.
So he like watches what Mussolini does and learns from him.
Miss Ballard. If
Uh-huh.
Moose is being very, very, very bad, sometimes we'll call him Mussolini.
What?
If my dog Moose, if he's being bad, sometimes we'll call him Mussolini.
Oh, that is very appropriate. Mhm.
But wait, so wouldn't people like recognize that as kind of copying him?
Yeah.
Did they like that, or were they like kind of like
Well,
not as
I don't know, Lily. It was like, so we're going to talk about what fascism is, and it was really a global movement.
Oh.
So I think they were okay with him copying it. Okay, can I move on?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, we're going to watch a video about Mussolini. He has some really good poses, just like Hitler did.
Ooh.
Okay. All right, so this is from a show called The Dictator's Playbook, and this is just the beginning, okay? So it's going to start off by showing you about like modern day fascists, because Mussolini was the start of fascism. So fascism is still around. It's going to go into Mussolini, okay? Can everybody see?
Yes.
Europe 2018. From Austria to Sweden, Hungary to Greece, ultranationalism is on the rise. Fueled by xenophobia and a promise to fight for the rights of white Europeans, extremist groups are emerging from the fringes and onto the public stage. It's a jarring sight, but the world has been here before. The ideologies that drive these groups can be traced back almost 100 years to one man, Italy's Benito Mussolini. Mussolini has been dismissed as a buffoon, a small-time tyrant who ruled in the shadow of Hitler and Stalin. But he was no one's disciple.
We heard for years that Hitler taught Mussolini everything he knew. In fact, it's the opposite.
Years before the Third Reich, Mussolini was the architect of a movement that would plunge the continent into darkness. He called it fascism. From undermining judges to indoctrinating children, Mussolini pioneered tactics that other dictators would use to seize power.
Mussolini absolutely wrote the blueprint for how to destroy a democracy.
How did this son of a blacksmith come to write key chapters of the dictator's playbook and turn himself into a modern Caesar?
Okay. So Mussolini is really where fascism starts. Can everybody see the slides now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
An angry cat.
Yeah, an angry cat. Okay. Okay, so fascism is still alive and well today, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Okay. All right. So let's review. Why was Italy really angry after World War One, like this cat? So I'm going to pop out so I can see you. Okay.
Should we write that?
No, I'll show you. Remember, we're writing the purple. Sage, what's one reason Italy was angry, you think?
Probably because of how much land they got from the treaty.
Right. And they got a little bit, right? A little tiny bit. Payton, do you remember anything else? Why else do you think Italy might have been mad after World War II?
Oh, I had to say goodbye to just World War II or World War One?
Oh, sorry, World War One. Sorry, my bad. That's okay. I thought you were raising your hand. Audrey, any ideas?
I think it's because basically they fought and they lost just as much people as the other allied countries did, and they thought it wasn't fair that because also another reason was they had made a secret treaty with Britain that if they joined the war and helped Britain, they would get a whole bunch of land around the Adriatic Sea.
Good. Okay, so you guys are all right. So yes, Italy is a victor, right? They helped win World War One. They fought on the side of the British, the French, the Americans, the winning side, right? And they had a lot of guys who died. You don't need to write this down. So they had 500,000 men dead and almost 1 million men wounded. So at the Treaty of Versailles, did anybody play the part of Italy when we did it? No. Okay. They didn't really have any say. They were kind of the kid in the corner that you ignore. So we have a picture of the Treaty of Versailles. So we have, anybody know who this guy is?
Woodrow Wilson.
Good. Woodrow Wilson. Who's that
George
guy?
Clemenceau.
Good. George Clemenceau. And this is the Italian ambassador or the Italian prime minister. And then this is David Lloyd George. So the Italian prime minister's name was Vittorio Orlando. And he didn't have any say in the Treaty of Versailles. And actually, the Americans get more credit than he does. And his guys have been fighting since 1915. So he is really, really angry because he's part of the winning team. He should get points, right? So after the war, Italy gets 9,000 miles of new land. Britain gets 200,000 miles.
It's a lot more.
It's a ton more. And most of it is in the colonies Germany used to have in Africa. And I think it was Audrey who said that there was a secret treaty where Britain was supposed to give Italy a lot more land. So Italy ends up with almost no good things happening. They don't get any reward for fighting in World War I. So they're very angry. Okay. All right. Also, after World War I, the Allies don't trust the Italians, even though they fought on their side. Because originally, remember we did our web of allies? Well, Italy was allies with the Germans. So they decided to fight those for the Allied powers, not the Central powers. So they flip sides so people don't really trust them. Okay, so here's what you need to write down. Okay, Italy after World War I goes on your left side, and this part goes on the right side. So this is summing up what we just talked about. Italy felt like they didn't get good enough rewards for winning in World War I. Okay, if you win, your country's supposed to get the good stuff, right? And they felt like they were being left out, getting all the good stuff. They had almost no say in the. And the Allied countries don't trust Italy at this point. What is going on over here? Okay. Hey guys, double check you're on mute unless you're talking to me, okay? So are there any questions about this so far, about Italy after World War I?
No.
Okay. Do we have this down or do we need another minute?
We need another minute.
Another minute.
That's fine.
Miss Ballard,
Mm-hmm.
you know how we're supposed to play foot golf for PE?
Yeah.
Required?
No. That's
I
just
didn't think so.
until giving you something.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask if it was required because I already have played golf.
I don't know anything about that. It just popped up on Classroom one day. So yeah, I think Mr. Ravenhill is just giving you some ideas of things to do at home.
Are the morning gatherings required?
No, it's just for you if you want to do it. Can I flip, guys? Or are you still writing?
You can flip.
Can you 1 second?
Sure. So the big takeaway is that Italy is not happy at the end of World War I. Can you think of any other countries that were not happy at the end of World War I?
Germany.
Germany. Oh, Germany.
Germany.
Yeah, so this is going to be a very similar situation, except that Italy was a winner. So that's even more bitter, I think.
But wouldn't all of them be unhappy? Because
I mean, everybody is sad because their guys died, right?
yeah.
But the British and the French were able to punish the Germans. They had the guilt clause, and then they got money from them in reparations, and then they're getting their land. So they still got some good stuff out of it.
But I still don't understand why they're being so mean to Germany. Like, they didn't do everything. They didn't destroy everything. But, like,
Right.
that's what we'd be mean to, like...
Miss Ballard, can you go back a slide?
I think Lily, it has to do with like warmongering. Okay. And they thought that Germany really was the one who was like pushing to have a war. Okay.
But, like, still... Okay, yeah, I guess.
Okay. So after World War I, okay, so we've already got these people angry about the political situation with the Treaty of Versailles. In Italy, there is a lot of inflation, not as much as in Germany, but there's very few people who have jobs, low employment. There
True,
are
right.
no, not blue. There are riots, and there's a fear of communist. Does this sound familiar? Sounds very familiar to Germany, right? Okay, so you guys asked me last week if there's any more communist countries. So these are the current communist countries in the world. So Cuba, North Korea, Cuba, Vietnam, China, and Laos are the current 5 communist countries. Okay, so they're very, very afraid of the communists coming over and taking over Italy. Okay, so we need to write the blue part at the bottom, put power vacuum on the left, and the definition on the right. Okay, so the king of Italy was named Victor Emmanuel III. And he was not a very strong king, and he depended a lot on his prime minister. So it's like England where you have a king and a prime minister. So his prime minister, Vittorio Orlando, who's the guy at the Treaty of Versailles, he resigns, he quits. So the next 3 prime ministers are very, very weak. So it's pretty much one prime minister every year. So imagine changing president every year and how disorganized that would be. What this leads to is what we would call a power vacuum, when the current government is super duper weak and it invites powerful leaders to take control. So you could also say there was a power vacuum in Germany where you have the Weimar Republic can't control the people. So just like Germany, Italy's the same way. You have a very weak government and you have riots. It's asking someone who's a strong leader to come in and take charge. Any questions on that part?
Hang on, don't flip the slide yet. I just need to write like 4 more words.
Okay. Doesn't this power vacuum look like R2-D2?
It does. I was gonna say.
It does.
So when next time you see R2-D2, you can think about power vacuums.
What's R2-D2?
Oh my word, we cannot teach everything in the history.
Seriously, Lily?
No kidding. Is it like a What is
It's
it?
a droid from Star Wars.
I've never seen Star Wars. Okay.
Well,
What in the world?
Miss Ballard, this
Yeah.
vacuum is almost as cool as the
I'm very
school one.
offended.
What, Kit?
That vacuum is almost as cool as the school one.
Oh, you're right. Almost, but not quite.
You gotta go
Okay,
with the vacuum.
moving on. Enter my favorite noodle. Okay, so you have linguine, spaghetti, vermicelli, lasagna, and then you have your Mussolini noodle. It's a joke. Okay. All right. On the left is Benito Mussolini. Here's the right. Okay, so Benito Mussolini this whole time has been working behind the scenes to start leading a group of men against the government. He is invited by the king to become prime minister.
I have
all the
a
other,
question.
what?
I have a quick question. But you
Okay.
can okay. My question is, didn't they have like 5 names? Because in the book, when it was like, what was Italy's name, were the thing that he led, and there were like 5 names.
Well, if you had one of them, I would count it. So,
Okay.
so he Benito Mussolini becomes the prime minister, which is like the president, and they call him Il Duce, which means the leader. So, for my folks who know German history, what is Hitler called? What do they call him?
I forgot what you called him.
The Führer. Okay, der Führer. Which also means the leader. So literally he copies the exact phrase that Mussolini uses and just puts it in German. Okay, so Il Duce literally means the leader. It's like the Duke. And he's the leader of the new fascist political party. So you have, like we in the United States have Republican Party, we have the Democrat Party, we have the Constitutionalist Party, the Green Party. So he starts a totally new party. This is a totally new idea of fascism that Mussolini comes up with on his own.
Marker is not working.
So guys, remember how last week we talked about how Hitler would take pictures of himself to see the best poses and like what was the most inspiring of his movements? Yeah. Mussolini also was somebody who would study like what his motions looked like. So you see these great poses like this that he would do. So he looks very powerful, very much in command.
Wouldn't they like practice their face more? Because like their face is really the most inspiring thing.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And Mussolini was really smart. He was really the first dictator to use radio to get people to listen to his speeches. So he could reach people all throughout Italy because he would do these radio televised speeches. All right, can I turn it?
Yes.
Okay. So this is long, but these are all really important. Okay, so Mussolini starts this thing called fascism. So there's lots of isms in history. There's communism, there's socialism, there's nationalism, but he's the guy who starts fascism. So fascism focuses on military might. You want a strong army. You want a strong navy. Extreme devotion to your country. So it's more than just being patriotic. This is like fanatical devotion. Okay, so you have to do everything for Italy. Italy matters more than individual people, individual rights. Fascism also focuses on the superior of your country's people, or in some cases, the race. So the Italian people are so brilliant. They have this great history. They will rise again. Or like in Nazi Germany, Hitler.
That person looks like an elf.
What?
The person in the picture looks like an elf.
No, I think he looks okay. He doesn't have pointy ears. So in Nazi Germany, they use this to say that the Germans are a superior race over the Jews. And we'll talk about that later this week. The idea also is to return to greatness. You guys all learned about ancient Rome if you were with me. And Mussolini is saying, hey, remember ancient Rome when we were super awesome and controlled the world? Well, we want to go back to that. So let's return to awesomeness for Italy. And then a very, very important thing for fascism is using violence to reach your goals. So they the fascists celebrated violence. They were excited when there was wars. They would make wars just to have wars, to show how great their military was and how great their country was. Okay. The last thing you don't need to write down, but it's where the word fascism comes from. It comes from a fasces, which is the stick bundle thing the guy has. Okay. And the idea is if you put all these sticks together, it's really hard to break them. I don't know if you've ever gotten a bunch of grass you pull up from your lawn. It's really hard to pull apart all that grass. It's the same thing with the sticks. If we have all these sticks bundled together, they're much stronger. So if all the people of Italy band together, no one can defeat Italy. And this is something the Romans did. The idea was strength through unity. So if you look at Mussolini's hat, sometimes you'll see this little fascist symbol on it.
Why would they like want? Oh wait, I'm muted. Oh no, I'm not. Okay. Why would they want to have wars if like the war got them into this? Like, that's why they're poor and stuff, because the war got them into this. So why would
That's
they?
A great question. I think it's this came up after World War I, and I feel like they wanted to go back to war to prove that they were really strong. And also, like, Mussolini's the new leader, and Mussolini can lead us to greatness, even though we weren't able to have greatness before. Are we finished?
I need one more minute.
Okay.
It's a lot to write.
It is, but like when you think about fascism today and like the fascists of current times, this is still the things that they focus on. Okay, so this is the easiest way for me to explain this. This is a totally new political movement that Mussolini is the father of.
Well, Ballard, how are we supposed to do our graduation if we're not going to be able to go back to school?
I will email your parents later this week. I've talked to Mr. Roberts.
Online graduation.
So Mr. Roberts and I have a plan. Don't worry.
Seriously?
Yeah, we got a plan for everything.
So we're gonna be able to do those speeches?
I will tell you when I email your parents. It's going to take me a while to send out the email.
When are you gonna send it out? Tonight?
Sometime this week. All right, I'm going to flip it. Is that okay?
Uh-huh.
All right. So on the left, write Nazi Germany, and then this part goes on the right. So Nazi Germany is also fascist. The idea of fascism goes to Nazi Germany as well. And Adolf Hitler starts his own fascist party, which is the Nazi Party, and he copies Mussolini's ideas. On the right-hand side, this is a map of current fascist parties in Europe and how many seats they control in their government. Okay, so in France, the fascist party is called the National Front, and they have 14% of their country's seats. That'd be like, in the United States, it'd be like 14% of our congressmen are fascist. In Sweden, it's 13%. In Finland, 18%. In Germany, it's less than 5%. Alternative for Germany, which is mostly in this part of Germany up here. But look at Switzerland, is 29% of the people who are running their country belong to a fascist party. Okay, so this is still a really big problem today.
Miss Ballard?
Uh-huh.
Is anybody in our country for fascism?
Yes, I don't think we have a quote fascist political party here, but we definitely have people who support fascism.
Is that a bad thing?
Well, when you advocate for violence as a main form of moving through getting your agenda done, I would say it's bad. And they also are very racist, so that's also bad. Can I move on, guys?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so are there fascists still today? So I think this is in Germany. This is a parade of fascists in Germany. Now, these two pictures, though, were taken in the United States 2 years ago. Remember in Charlottesville when they had the big riot?
No.
Okay, so this is about 2 years ago in Virginia. They had a big riot, and you can see
Is
this
that
guy.
the one with the guys?
Oh, I remember that.
So this was a few years ago where they had a big riot, and a lot of people who were neo-Nazis and fascists came to Virginia. And you can see this is in Virginia, and this guy has a Nazi flag, and this guy has an old German shield.
Oh, wait.
Okay, so this is in the United States, guys. This is still a big problem.
Wait, Miss Ballard.
Uh-huh.
Holding a Confederate flag?
Yeah, so some of these guys have Confederate flags as well. But that has
That's not in
become
context.
no, but that's a different symbol now. I'm just talking about this right now. Okay. All right. Okay. Don't write now. So Mussolini's main goal is to make Italy great again. Okay. And he uses Roman symbols. So he uses the eagle. Here's also the fascist, right? And he's trying to get people to want to have a great Roman Empire. So why is this a great idea? Well, it helps you understand that he's like the next Julius Caesar. Okay, so people really wanted, they really wanted Mussolini to be like the next Caesar.
Doesn't Hitler use like one of those eagles?
Yes, he does the same thing where he harkens back to the Roman Empire. And before this, even Napoleon was doing it as well. So a lot of people look back and try to emulate the Roman Empire. Okay, so Mussolini has a private army, which is called the Black Shirts. And this is his army of bullies. And there's about 30,000 of them. And they're able to take over a country of 40 million people. Because they beat people up and they're very violent. So when people go to vote for who they want for the prime minister, Mussolini or like somebody else, what they would do is the Black Shirts would stand outside the polling place. And the first guy that came out, they would beat him up. And the guy might say, I voted for you. And they would say, we don't care. We want you to vote for the fascists regardless. And it would scare people, okay, to vote for the fascists. They'd be, I'm going to get beaten up too. So they used a lot of violence. Does that sound familiar? The Black Shirts?
And the brown shirts.
And the brown shirts. So Hitler borrowed it, and instead of being...
Did they wear black shirts?
So these guys, yep, the Italians wore the black shirts, and the Germans wore the brown shirts. So he also, Mussolini, we talked about when you're fascist, you like violence. This was his biggest critic in the government. His name was Giacomo Matteotti. So he was like one of the guys in the Congress there. And he told Mussolini that he wasn't going to do what he said. And he didn't like Mussolini's, the way he used violence. So Mussolini essentially had his guys go out and they captured him and kidnapped him and they killed him. And Mussolini, instead of being like, oh, I had nothing to do with that, he told everyone, yes, I'm responsible for this because this man is not helping our country. So it's very frightening that a dictator would own up to killing people on purpose. Okay, so Mussolini decides that he's not getting far enough in his goals and he needs to unite the country. So he decides, I'm going to go invade Ethiopia, which is pretty close to Italy. It's in Africa, if we remember correctly. And he goes and invades Ethiopia.
Isn't that on the Horn?
Is it what?
Isn't it like close to the Horn of Africa?
It's close to like Sudan and like that part that comes out.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he goes and invades Ethiopia. He thinks, oh, my army is so great. We're going to win. Everybody loves Italy. And it takes him 7 months to beat the Ethiopians, even though their army is much stronger. So we see that Mussolini is really not a very good military leader, even though he's a dictator. Okay, so this part you need to write down. This is summing up what we just talked about. So why is Mussolini successful as a dictator? Well, he's a strong leader and a power vacuum. So there's a weak government and he jumps in and he takes the reins. He uses Roman symbolism. He reminds Italians of the potential greatness of Italy. Everybody wants to be like Caesar. He takes these pictures of him next to the statues of Julius Caesar. So he reminds people, we were so great. Let's be great again. He uses leftover World War I anger. just like Hitler does. And then he leads a group of bullies called the Black Shirts, which is what eventually becomes the backbone of the Italian army. And as we see in history, Mussolini is very good at getting people interested in him. He's really kind of trash as a military leader. His armies are really bad, and they don't do very well in World War II. So they're pretty much the first set of armies to be defeated by the Allies. But as a political leader, he's very, very smart.
Miss Ballard, if all these countries are like scared of communism, how come they later go with Russia?
Can you say that again, please?
If all these countries are scared of communism, don't they? I might be getting this confused with something else, but don't they later in World War II join up with Russia?
Okay, that's a great question. Germany does make a pact with Russia at the beginning of the war, to not fight each other.
And then they break it.
They agree to not fight. The fascists in Germany make a compact with the communists in Russia not to fight, which is crazy. Yeah, they hate each other, but they're more afraid. They realize at that time that they can't fight each other. They'd much rather fight the democratic nations. So that's a great question, Kit. They never actually trust each other, but they realize that if they're buddies for a little bit, it'd be helpful to beat everybody else, and then they turn on each other.
Doesn't Hitler just break it in the beginning of the war and invade them?
Yeah, so he invades Russia
after he invades Poland, right?
Yeah, I think it's 1941. It's like right around when we have Pearl Harbor. It's that same year, I think. So, actually, the communism becomes a much bigger threat after World War II, but people are already afraid of it after World War I. Great question. Any other questions while we're writing stuff down?
No.
Okay. All right, can I move on, guys? Okay. All right, so why is this important? Okay, top part, World War I relates to World War II, goes on your left, and then this part goes on your right. World War I relates directly to World War II because we have a lot of leftover problems from World War I, which lead to World War II. Think of it as leftover baggage, okay? The bags that are not claimed. So we have a lot of things that we don't address at the end of World War I that the Treaty of Versailles doesn't fix or even makes worse. So that ultimately causes World War II. That's why it's like World War Part I, World War Part II. They're very closely tied.
So pretty much it was like they had a war and then they were kind of like, okay, we need a break and then we'll get back to this.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was, Lily.
Okay.
It was really two wars that are very closely connected. And if you didn't have World War I don't think you would have had World War II.
Miss Ballard.
Mm-hmm.
Who's like our biggest threat that we don't get along with, like other than Iran right now?
Well, probably North Korea.
But right now,
you could say China, or you could say Russia.
But I feel like
everybody kind of gave up, or everybody kind of lost sight of North Korea after the coronavirus started.
Yeah, I think they have some pretty bad coronavirus there too, actually.
Why can't we take this as like, why can't we just be like, we can all be friends now? Because I feel like we've all kind of helped each other in this virus.
Well, actually, we haven't been really helping each other.
Let's say we did. And then they would be friends with us, right?
That would be nice, but that's not how it works. Okay, so this is going to transfer us back to Germany because we're going to go back to Germany. We talk about this on Friday, okay? So this is just a quick video connecting the two up, okay?
Mussolini was forging the first fascist state in Italy. Back here in Germany, Hitler was taking notes. Once out of prison, he played on many of the same themes as Mussolini, rousing a disillusioned workforce, reviving a struggling economy, and fixing what was considered a weak government. At first, the boom times of the Roaring Twenties blunted his populist message. But then, the Great Depression hit in 1929. The working masses were angry again, and Hitler's promises gained traction. Fascism was now taking root in Germany.
So Hitler promised jobs to everybody. And of course, people needed jobs. That was exactly what they wanted to hear.
Hitler promised the people everything they wanted. He promised them a bright future. He promised them work. He promised them Lebensraum, living space.
Hitler was a powerful, mesmerizing speaker.
People were taken by Hitler's speech not so much by the beauty of his arguments, but by his sheer fanaticism, by his anger, by his rage, and his repetitive rhetoric. And people, eyewitness accounts, describe it as a barbaric, primitive effect.
What he was telling people was a disaster, but the performance he delivered was a big artistic show.
He repeated a lie endlessly, and he didn't make it a small lie. He made it a big lie, and he kept hammering it into their heads. He also dumbed it down as much as possible.
His simplistic promises were made to order for his political base. More prosperity and expanded borders for more room in which to live, or Lebensraum.
Fascism?
Okay. So Hitler directly relates to Mussolini. So the question is, what happens to Mussolini? We don't really hear much about Mussolini. I'm guessing you guys haven't heard much about him at the end. So the Italians really stink at war, and they pretty much lose by 1943. They're pretty much wiped off the map by the Allies, by the Americans and the British. So the Italian people, they think Mussolini as a dictator is pretty bad. So they kind of kick him out, and he's forced to resign. So they put him up in this house, like way up in the mountains, and he's under guard. So Hitler sends in his crack troops, and they go and they rescue him. So this is a picture of him getting rescued by the Nazis. And Hitler gives him his job back as leader of Italy, but he's really a puppet to Hitler. He has to do anything Hitler tells him to. So he does that for a couple of months, and then eventually some Italian soldiers capture him, and he's killed. So that's the end of.
Was he killed like gruesomely or just by gun?
I think they did a firing squad, and then they strung him up. So
what's that mean?
Yeah. They hung him upside down, so everybody could see him that he was dead.
Wow.
And the reason they hung him upside down is, remember, everything relates back to ancient Rome. And in ancient Rome, that was a sign you were a traitor to your country. So that's really sending a message. Okay. So if we go back, to our beginning. Okay. Can we say that almost all of the same things that led Hitler to power also helped Mussolini? Was there a weak government? Yeah. Was there riot? Yeah. Was there fear of communism? Yeah. Actually, Mussolini didn't use Jews as scapegoats. He used the communists as scapegoats and said that all of our problems are from the communists. Was Mussolini a strong leader? Yeah. Did he have a private army? Yeah. So if I asked you a question on your test about how Hitler and Mussolini are connected, Hitler learned everything from Mussolini, guys. He wasn't that smart. He just copied off Mussolini. Okay. Are there any questions?
Nope.
At this point? Nope. Okay. Well, thank you so much for listening, guys. We are going to talk about the Holocaust on Friday. Okay. So we're going to go back to Germany after our brief sojourn in Italy. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
And I'm going to go eat macaroni and cheese. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.
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 Bye. Winston.
It's still recording.